Bueno, estoy feliz porque
I am delighted because the voice of Latin America in this debate about road safety and motorbikes has been absent. We never listen. We've never had so much opportunity to be heard. We have a reality to tell as well. We have part of the story. We have a way of looking at things which is different from other regions. So we're really thankful. That's why when we call us to those global ministerial events, that sounds great, but it doesn't always work. When we assess the effectiveness of the last decade of road safety, and we were in Stockholm, there was only one panel on motorcycles, and that was the busiest, the best attended. Everyone went there. There was only one. I think it was Maria who was moderating it. And Maria was saying, well, I was chairing a panel, and they give us Chile to talk about motorbikes, and Chile has no problems with motorbikes. So careful, be careful. If we want to save lives on our roads, and especially as regards motorbike drivers and the symbolism of motorbikes in our regions, then we have to listen to each other, because we must all work together. And the contribution and the sharing of experiences will be very productive if we all have a voice. We all have to listen to each other. Latin America does exist, and we also face challenges. And so I will introduce this panel. The panelist first, the Colombian representative. He sent his presentation. We will see him speaking on a video. Diego Parra, he's an economist of the Catholic University of Colombia, specialist in finances and public administration. He works on social protection. He's worked in the public sector during 13 years. He's led working groups and the National Authority on Health. He has led insurance, the area of insurances, the sector of insurances. He works for Road Safety Agency in Colombia. So a long professional career. We will listen to him now by video. Good afternoon to all those attending. My name is Diego Parras. I am the director of the National Observatory of Road Safety. I will talk to you about this agency of road safety. It was set up in 2013 during a law from 2017, and it was to look after road safety in our country. We're one of those countries that have the highest rate of deaths due to road accidents. In 2023, we had 8,405 people die on the roads, 1.7% increase compared to the previous year. Not much compared to other years. It is the year with the lowest increase. So we are holding back on that increase. As regards motorcycles, the fleet since 2009 has increased by 300% in Colombia, especially after the COVID. Mobility in Colombia was through vehicle and public transport, but due to the pandemic, people began to use motorbikes more, and they began to be used as a working tool. So the number of motorbikes increased. During 2008, 2009, four-wheel vehicles were more than motorbikes, but from that year, the fleet of motorcycles started to increase. This year, there's 90 million vehicles. In Colombia, 60% motorbikes. This has had a certain results and an increase in deaths on the roads, because those 8,405 who died in 2023, from them 63% are motorcycle riders, and from 73% of deaths on roads are motorcycle riders. So that is of huge concern, because the tendency is to increase. So most road users reduce their deaths, the number of deaths, but motorcycle riders' deaths continue to increase. We think that 55% of motorcycles deaths are due to crashes against fixed objects, other motorcycles, or because they fall off the motorbike. So we think they die because they don't have the skills in riding their motorbikes. The National Agency for Road Safety has brought in a number of policies and activities in order to face this problem, to reduce the problem. So this year especially, we have local authorities with people in municipalities and when we have new people in the authorities, new plans must be developed. So they create a roadmap for work for the 4-year period. They get the funding, the objectives, the indicators, and we saw that as an opportunity to work with these local authorities and make sure that they include road safety in their plans, so that they have indicators about road safety and so that they have clear aims as regards reducing road deaths, and also to assign some funds at local level for road safety. So we have a number of programs, pedagogical programs, institutional strengthening, etc. As regards the pedagogical area, we promote the proper use of helmets. We have seen in different regions that they don't use the helmet, or that they carry it in their arm but they don't wear it on their heads, that they use helmets which are not adequate for themselves. They're either too big for them or too small, so they lose it if they have an accident. And we've also seen that the helmet sometimes is made without complying with the technical regulations. So we also have another activity to develop motorcycling abilities, and it's called Motor Destrezas. And we develop the skills of the motorcycle riders, and we have also training courses which last approximately 4 hours. We show the community that we have a virtual school for road safety where people can learn about PPE. These workshops are one thing we're doing, but we also do control and surveillance together with the local authorities, traffic authorities. We support in the Observatory the identification of the critical elements of accident that increase the accident rates, and together with the national police, we control the roads, not so much to penalize drivers, but to help them reduce speed. Most people, one out of four out of 10 deaths are due to high speed. So speed we set up control points so people reduce the speed, and we also use those points of control to develop our pedagogical activities as well. We help the citizens to develop their skills through norms as well and laws. So that's our intervention as regards at the level of the municipalities. We're working with different sectors, with public and private entities and mixed entities, organizations as well. Currently, there is a law in which things have changed from before. Before, these training centers were showing, were teaching things that nowadays is out of date. So we want to standardize what is taught, and we want to standardize the courses and to insist on road safety. We're working with the Ministry for Work, for Employment. After the pandemic, the motorcycle became a work tool for many Colombians, especially for those who do deliveries. We have a law that forces companies that use motorcycles, for example, for deliveries, they must have strategic plans for the road safety in each company. And we also set up a protocol for safe practices for these companies who have motorcycle riders. They must communicate and introduce that protocol so the motorcycle users must implement it, who work for them. We're also encouraging corporate responsibility. We're working with the National Association of Entrepreneurs, of companies, and with what we want to do is that from the moment in which they start to sell motorbikes, we have to give information about safety. In our agency, we are about to obtain the Equipares stamp. We also are making the community aware of why you cannot bring children as passengers in the motorcycle. That's not how the vehicle is designed. There's no safety features for children on motorbikes. And there's a high level of accidents who are with victims from that group of age group. So we are raising awareness. We know that it's a cheap means of transport for families, and in this, we are making sure that at least people are aware that if they're going to use a motorbike, at least to use it in a responsible manner. Although the ultimate goal should be not to bring children, not to give big children in motorbikes. Our agency, it works at local level, but at national level, the local governments do not have the brief to have speed detection cameras. That is done at a central level. The national police does it. So at the moment, we're trying to put cameras to detect the high-speed vehicles with the national police. We have carried out many activities with them. For example, to standardize the data they collect, and try to standardize it with our data. the introduction of sensors for drivers with alcohol who are using alcohol, etc. We also work as regards regulating the use of helmets. We promoted the use of helmets, compulsory use of helmet for drivers and passengers. But since 2019, we decided that it's not just a matter of using the helmet, but what kind of helmet must be used according to technical information we have. There is a European technical regulation, another one in the United States. So we also opened the door for companies who want to produce these helmets legally have to follow certain technical specifications. This since 2019. So that's something we didn't have before that. So not only using helmets, but using helmets that are regulated and certified and that can withstand accidents. In 2022, we moved forward as regards the law. Maybe you have it in Europe already, but it was important for us, and that's regulating the braking system. From 2025, next year, every company that wants to sell motorbikes in our countries must motorbikes under 150cc must have a CBS system for braking system. These help us in the medium and long term to have motorbikes only with these specifications, minimum specifications, and that might guarantee higher road safety when braking, when using the motorbikes, and using the braking system. We have strategy, the network of regional observatories, and their objective is to strengthen the knowledge in the different territories. We have a national observatory, but what we want, every territory, every region, to have an observatory. So they themselves can collect data, supported obviously by the National Observatory. That as regards public policy, the work carried out by our own, my own agency, and that's what we wanted to show you. There have been very difficult years after the pandemic, but the data tells us that we have been able to reduce the accident rate in our country, and we hope that this year finally we might have an increase of zero increase in accidents, or at least a negative growth in accidents. Okay, thank you very much to Diego from Colombia for his presentation. We will not ask him questions because they were included in his presentation. Let us listen now, here in person, to Pere Navarro. He has a great professional career. You probably know what he's done already, so I won't give you all the details. Okay, Mr. Navarro, you have the floor.
Bueno, una previa. Cuidado con el tema de la seguridad vial en Latinoamérica y
It's really interesting to hear how road safety in Latin America works, and this actually creates some addiction because it's a world where you feel trapped and you learn many things. Well, first of all, the motorcycle in Latin America is like a family vehicle. Here in Spain, it's a vehicle you use to go to work or just to move. However, in Latin America, when you see they also use it as taxi, you are like, what? Oh my God, this is nonsense. You won't believe it. You go see the slums in Bogota, in Caracas, and you realize that these motorbike taxi is crucial. So, well, this is an entire different world, but fascinating at the same time. I would like to send my greetings to Ana Ferrer. He used to work at the Road Safety Observatory, and she's who has worked the most in road safety in Latin America. She has worked a lot in motorcycle, and she's the author of the best manual I've ever seen about different measures that can be implemented for the motorbike road safety. We want to update this manual together with Anisdor, and this is the greatest publication I've ever seen when it comes to motorcycles. So I'll try to be brief, although this will be very hard for me to synthesize. I will talk about the different measures that we have in Spain and the upcoming measures. First of all, motorcycles are not a problem, they are a reality, and what we have to do is to manage this reality. Motorcycles are more and more present in the mobility policies. Yes, we want to decrease the presence of cars, so one of the greatest alternatives is the motorbike. That's why we see an increase in motorbikes. But there is a problem, as the president from Anistor said, we are a mosquito compared to the automobile sector. So there are lots of congresses, sessions about the automobile sector. They represent 10% of the GDP, but no one talks about the motorcycles. There is no space whatsoever for motorcycles. So that's why this event on motorbikes is so relevant. I saw at some point a municipal plan on urban mobility, including the presence of motorcycles. They said, okay, let's decrease the use of cars, let's go by walk, but they usually forget the presence of motorcycles. We are obsessed with cars, and oftentimes motorcycles are neglected. But here we are experts in motorcycle, and that's why this has a huge importance to hold an event like this. Here we can see the advantages and disadvantages of motorcycles, everything that we already know. In 70% of the deaths happens in the road, and 30% happens in the cities. So pay attention to this number here, because motorcycles are rather used in the cities. However, most of the deaths happen in the roads, whereas the greatest volume of users is in the cities. So our greatest challenge is in the road. Spain has a 15% of the vehicle fleet, but 25% of the deaths are from motorcycle riders. So this is less than 3% of the traffic. Okay, yes, less than 3% of the traffic, but 25% of the deaths. So road safety in motorcycle in Spain, and I said this in my presentation when we saw the conclusions last year, everything had decreased except for motorcycles, where the accident rates had increased. In Spain, we have 450 deaths per year. In Colombia, we saw that the number is 5,000. So, well, I am not happy to say that we have a very serious problem. Everything is relative, of course, but it's true that in Spain, if we want to improve road safety, we will need to concentrate our efforts in the motorcycle safety and in their movements. When it comes to the accident rates in the roads, here the user profile is very specific. 3 out of 4 are found in conventional roads, 1 out of 2 in weekends, 1 out of 2 every time they go out of the lane, 3 out of 4 with motorbike with more than 500 cc, 1 out of 2 in a motorbike with more than 10 years. Driver, the age group is between 35 and 54 years, and they have the driving license since more than 10 years. So this is the most common profile. So this is a person that had already had a motorbike, they got married, they had children, they had this responsibility mode on, then they reach 40, 45 years old and they say, well, I deserve it. I want to take the motorbike. They buy a very good motorbike. They buy, a leather jacket to seem young. And then you see, this is the classical profile of the person who will go out of the lane. So it is very important to have a very clear profile of these people. In cities, 142 people were dead in 2022, especially in weekdays and not in weekend. And in the cities, the main problem are the crashes. So now, when it comes about measures, first of all, we need safer drivers before they obtain the driving license in order to get the driving license and afterwards. This is the itinerary that we have in all training programs, but especially for riders. We haven't attached enough importance to this. After 30 years of period, now we are talking about road safety finally in schools. Now this is present in primary school and also in high school. And finally, this is present in the physical education subject. So this is taught by the EP teachers. And in this case, we called it How to Learn to Ride a Bicycle. Well, this means that all our young people will leave their school with a basic training with the values of road safety and also with training as cyclists and pedestrians. And if they already have this training as cyclists, then it will be easier for them to use the motorbike. This is wonderful. This is a magnificent law, so let's see if we are capable of making a good use of it. Then, if we talk about the driving license, we know how it works and the obtention of the license. During the first phase, I would say that the family has a very important role to play. They have to introduce all the road safety values. The driving license is something at all. Here we see the progression. And the main news is that for the A license, we will update the motorbikes with more than 100 cc. This will be for high-performance motorbikes. And in this case, we will introduce mandatory equipment, and you need to include this equipment in the program. So this will be part of a good practice. We also need to strengthen and review the criteria for the driving license. And this is the main news. We used to have the B+3. This was a mobility measure. With 3 years, you were able to use a motorbike up until 125. The idea was to leave the car and then use a scooter in cities. The experience said, okay, this is wonderful when it comes to mobility, but there is a problem, an issue in urban mobility. So we followed the model from France and we are carrying out a course. So for these people who have a 3-year license, it's not with a retroactive effect, but the city councils were asking for this, and it has proven to be efficient. Then, what happens after you get the driving license? Well, there are some courses for those people who have lost their driving points. Up until now, there were 2 specific courses for alcohol and speed. Now we will be introducing a 3rd one for motorcycle riders, and riders will have specific content in those courses when they want to get back their points. We will also have some efficient and safe driving courses. We will do this under this mandate. This is in course, and the idea behind this is first to have some refresher course. We want all the companies to update their knowledge. Companies every 5 years need to carry out these programs, and the same applies for motorcycle riders. And then for the riders there should be a special treatment. Then here we see the protection equipment. There should be a standard helmet, well fastened, also the gloves. And here we need to attach enough importance to the protective equipment, closed footwear, and also the recommendation of airbag. This will be a major leap for safety in motorcycle riders. This will take some time. It will go through the standards, and before summer, the traffic police will include the first airbags and will make good use of this to make a campaign. So little by little, we will see people in the cities with their scooters and a very small vest with the airbag. This is a major commitment from DGT. Now, communication and awareness raising. Here we have two awareness raising measures, and they are very effective. We need to have the information panels. They are present in the roads. And, during some weekends, 1 out of 4, we say 1 out of 4 dead people were in a motorbike. So you are on a weekend and you read this in a panel, and they remind you that 1 out of 4 people who died was a motorbike. Well, this will give you another layer of awareness raising. So depending on the data, we include these communication panels and we convey the reality. It's what it is. We are not making it up. And this way, we are attaching the importance that it is. The worst thing that you can do in road safety is to forget about these topics and hide them. That's why we need to talk about these topics. We also carry out special operations, especially in weekends, in the areas where the motorcycles will be more concentrated. Here we carry out special operations together with DGT. Now, safe infrastructures. 1, we need to have safe railguards for Spain. Spain actually was the first country to implement this rule, especially in the bends where they had to put these signs. Now, we are working with the DGT and we will create a working group to see what else we can do to improve the road infrastructure, especially thinking about the riders. We chose the 100 most dangerous roads and we placed some special signs. We placed the special risk signs and we explained the amount of accidents. So we went to these areas, to the Canary Islands, Valencia, etc., Madrid also, and we conducted these campaigns. We also did some horizontal signing to help guarantee a safer signing in the events. We conducted some tests. The result seemed to be positive, so we may implement this little by little. And finally, the lane for the bus. We are concerned about the high occupation of vehicles. We know that to go and come back from work, we have 1 person per car, so we need to make a greater use of these vehicles. And in this case, motorcycles will play a very important role. So we need to be creative and see where we can place our motorbikes. In some place in Colombia, I saw there is a recommended lane for motorcycles in the cities. And so the motorcycles in Colombia can use, for example, the right lane. In the cities, the greatest measure is 30 kilometers per hour in the single lanes. This is the great commitment from DGT to make traffic more calm. Of course, there can be accidents, but there won't be anyone dying. So this is a great commitment from DGT. Already in the first year, there was a 14% reduction, although not everyone complies with this law. So imagine when there is a full compliance. And now we're introducing motorbikes in urban mobility. You have a document, and I think there is a circulating document about how to include motorbikes in urban mobility plans, because we identified that this had been long forgotten and motorcycles are not taken into account in these plans. So the idea is to think and to include motorcycles in the design. So I know that in the upcoming scenario there will be a decrease of cars and increase of motorcycles. So public transport needs to have their own lane. Buses, cars, bicycles have their own lane, and pedestrians have their own space as well. But the motorcycle is the single vehicle that does not have a unique space. So we all need to fight to recognize a special space for the motorcycles. Safe vehicles, well, we need to progress. It is difficult in our sector, but we need to incorporate the different measures. We've seen an increase of safety in the automobile sector with the different aids and systems. It's surprising, and now the challenge is to take this into the motorcycle sector. It will be more difficult, it's true, but we are improving quite a lot with the braking distribution and the lighting. We're obsessed with this topic at DGT, the relationship between the power and the weight. So in the high-performing motorbikes, but which are light, those are thought to be present in circuits, but those are sold and they present special risks. So there is something we need to do. We need to do something about these high-performing motorbikes that do not weigh a lot. In this case, we know that the dealers know about motorcycles. They know about the profile. They know that if they buy that motorcycle, that person will have an accident. So let's see how and what we can do to guarantee a safer use of motorcycles. And finally, the review, the control for the braking, the tires, and the braking system. If the braking system is not working, then there's nothing you can do with a motorcycle. With lighting, we don't have any problem here, but in Latin America, the roads are full of trucks, and you will see lots of motorbikers without using the lighting. So this will be a crucial aspect. Regulation, yes. When there is a congestion, they can use, for example, the roadside. This is something that they will continue doing, and we are making many efforts to adapt this to reality. And the control and supervision. This is something that Rory mentioned. Road safety is about training, awareness raising. And we also need to add the control and supervision. If we only do training, this won't work. And if there is only control and supervision, then it won't work because people are not well trained. So we need these two elements. It is more complicated in motorcycles, but we need to carry out special campaigns. For example, there are 100,000 sanctions per year to motorcycle riders. Usually those sanctions are speed related. And yes, we will have some hidden motorcycles for the most concentrated areas, especially during weekends. There will be a hidden motorcycle and you won't know whether he is a rider or a police member that is, carrying out this surveillance and control measures. We will also have some drones. And here the key is to push in the same direction, because ultimately we all want the same. We want to increase the safety. So this is crucial. We are doing this with the Users Association and together with the OEM manufacturers. So this is a joint project. We all need to work on this, and we need to see how we can all work together to achieve our goals. We also have the driving schools, the dealers, the companies, the association of traffic, so they know a lot, and this is our obsession, to work all of us together. So which are the conclusions? Well, we need to highlight the importance of training and awareness raising. We need to see which are the best campaigns, the best initiatives, because this is a way to involve the civil society. Protection equipment, also the traffic in the cities, progress in the implementation of the ARAS, and increase the exchange of experience and good practices, because this is a problem that we all share. Yes, the solutions will be different, but in the end, this is what it is. Thank you very much.
Muchas gracias, Pere.
Thank you very much, Pere. So this concerns us all. We must all tackle this. Safe systems. Well, that's a trend now, same as Vision Zero, of zero accidents. But we had that at the beginning of the 2000s. And from then to now, look at the situation. And understanding this in Latin America is not so easy. Language is simpler. We have to all do this together, and we must involve everyone. Pere was talking about license B1 in Costa Rica. We removed that from the law because riding a bike is one thing and driving a four-wheeled vehicle is different. The complexity is different. I may have experience driving a car, and then I could buy a bicycle, and they're the first people to have an accident and die. So we are careful with that. But we have to tackle the infrastructure as well. The auditing of road safety, the traditional audits do not work for motorbikes. We must include motorbikes in the audits for mobility and road safety. We must have to take into account pedestrians, motorcyclists, not just cars. So it is not only about taking picture of everyone who's faster, but we need to understand the mobility patterns of a city, for example. And then there's the mechanical aspect. If motorbikes are not safer, and manufacturers sometimes get annoyed with me, but if they're not safer, then it should affect demand, because people who need it, it affects the people who buy it, because if you bring in safer features, then the motorbike is more expensive. So people who use it for working, for bringing their families around, they can afford it. So I will ask Pere the questions. What good practices would you recommend to other countries, and what countries do you think you can learn from in Spain? Spain can learn from countries who have a lot of motorbikes and very few accidents. We're looking for that country. What can we recommend? Well, in Spain, we have put the victims at the center of road safety policy. We have testimonies of victims who explain about their cases in these studies and this training, because it is not the same me saying to someone, put on a helmet, than someone who was a victim of an accident where no helmet was worn, says it. So you also said it, a little bit of control is important. Sanctions, surveillance, control, that is all fundamental also. And also moving forward together and involve involving civil society and the media. Training, training, training. Imagine they sell motorbikes in the shops where you can buy a washing machine, a television, a fridge. The seller of motorbikes must be specialized so that they can add value when selling a motorbike with their knowledge. We maybe look this event is being followed in the social networks, and there is a question by the motorbike riders. They are the first ones interested in safety on motorbikes. They should affiliate. The role of user associations are very important. The associations of motorbike users are our best colleagues in devising policies for motorbikes. Otherwise, you will not move forward. This is too important to leave it in the hands of the administrations. They must get involved in this. There is something here. We can't hear the intervention from the floor, from the public, because there was no mic used. Sorry about that. Okay, so we just have a video from Vietnam. Trinh to Ha. It's a lady, the Deputy Chief Officer of National Traffic Safety Committee in Vietnam. She has a master. She did a master in Dallas. Let us see the amount of motorbikes in Vietnam. They have millions of bikes. The crashes there are motorbike against motorbike. We have motorbikes against a tree, or coming off the road, or against a vehicle. So it's a different situation.
The Chief Office of the National Traffic Safety Committee of Vietnam. It is my honor to represent Vietnam to attend the International Motorcycles Road Safety Conference. Due to some objective circumstances, I cannot join you in person. However, it will not prevent me from sharing with you how in Vietnam we implement the road safety strategies and action plans for motorcycles in Vietnam. So before going to further policies, I want to share with you some data of the overall information in Vietnam. We are the population of 100 million people, and the population is quite young. About 95% of the population is under 65 years old, and we have the motorization rate is increasing rapidly during year to year. By 2023, we have about 6.3 million cars, and we have about 74 million motorcycles and mopeds. The driving license are issued for car is about 11.5 million license. However, the license issues for motorcycle is around 52 million licenses. And these are one of the challenges that we will face, and I will go into further detail in later slides. The economic growth in Vietnam in 2023 is about 8%, and we are one of the most developing and growing economies in Southeast Asia. There are some changes on the road in Vietnam for the last century. In the 1900s, we are still a non-motorized transport country. People move around by walking or cycling. In the 1960s, we have few bicycles on the road, and by the 1990s, we start to have motorcycles, but the main transportation for people to move around is still bicycles. By the time of 2000 and 2010s, these are the blooming for the economies, and we have more motorcycle on the roads and a few cars. However, by 20 years later, 2023, we have more cars and motorbikes joining the road for transportation. For the road accident fatalities, we have a 43.5% fatality rate reduction over the first decade of action. This data is reported in the country report issued by the WHO. However, we still have high fatality road crash that we have to face. And the first party of road accidents, the data that I collected in 2015, the first party, 69% are motorcyclists, 25% are drivers, and 6% are others. One of the major costs for road accidents will be changing lanes without signaling or changing lane without looking. The second highest cost will be speeding or going against traffic regulation. Also, drunk driving is one of the main causes for traffic accident. In 2010 to 2012, those are the 3 years we have the highest road crash, and the government decided to take actions by empowering the National Traffic Safety Committee. We are the organization that work directly under the Prime Minister, and we have a Deputy Prime Minister as our chairman. We have a Executive Vice Chairman who act frequently on the issue of traffic road safety, and we mobilize as well as coordinate and direction for other ministries to join in to prevent traffic safety crashes, such as the Ministry of Public Security, the Ministry of Health, the Ministry of Education and Training, and others. Like other countries, we also implement the safe system approach from the UN in Vietnam. I was very lucky to be one of the person to get trained and learn about the safe system approach from the UN in 2019. And in Vietnam, we also have the 5 pillars for the road safety. Safety management, which is the regulation, the policies, and the Ministry of Transport and Ministry of Public Security are the one who in charge of presenting and propose the changes in the regulations. We have the road infrastructure improvement, and the Ministry of Transport are the main ministry who in charge of this sector. We have road safety vehicles, the training for the road users, and the post-crash response. Moving to motorcycle safety, in 1997, the helmet compulsory regulation is taking effective, and however, it takes about 10 years for this regulation to really implement thoroughly and completely. On December 15, 2007, and this is the day that everybody who works in traffic safety field would never forget. Overnight, everybody in Vietnam, from not wearing helmet to completely 100% wearing helmet. And about 20 years later, in 2023, we have about 90% of adults wearing helmet while riding motorcycle, and 80% of children wearing helmet while participate in traffic safety on motorbike. And right now we are focusing on the quality of helmet, and we trying to advocate people to use the full face helmet while riding motorcycle. In Vietnam, the government of Vietnam focus on children, and we have a lot of helmet donation program. From 2018 to 2023, 2 million helmets is donated every year to every first grade student in Vietnam on the first day of school. And with this donation program, we want to send a message that the first lesson when you learn at school is to obey the law of road safety, and you learn how to protect yourself. And a lot of other road safety program will go along with the student from first grade to 12th grade. Also, for the road for the motorcycle safety, we also improve the infrastructure for motorcycle. Since Vietnam have the mixed transportation on the road, but we try to separate lanes for motorcycle and separate lanes for cars. That will reduce the risk for the motorcyclist. For the risk factor control, in 2020, the zero tolerance alcohol for all drivers is taken into effective on January 1st, 2020. And we have different enforcement and punishment for people who violate this law in different levels. And I don't know about how it is in your country, but many mothers and many wives in Vietnam are very happy when this regulation is taken, is implemented, because they think that it actually brings safety and peace to the for their loved one when they are driving and riding. We also focus on education and training for people who not yet riding motorcycle themselves. For example, we work with the Vietnam automobile manufacturer and the Ministry of Education and Training and NTSC ourselves. Since 2014, we have trained 13 million learners, including 8 million secondary students and 2 million primary students, and about 300,000 high school students on how to improve their riding skills and improve their knowledge about road safety knowledge and education. In 2019 and 23, we have driving tests and contests for high schoolers. Also, in order to improve the motorcycle road safety, we have a lot of research to improve the motorcycle itself. We have worked with a lot of credential institution in order to research the main causes of motorcycle crash, and in order to find the root cause, we study a lot of data on the road crash cases in order to advocate for more policy. Also, we have to improve the motorcycle safety standard. For example, the government already proposed and considered at the Congress for the automatic headlights on the anti-brake system and the combined brake system. Even though we have done a lot of changes, but we also face many challenges in the future. For example, the motorization rate in Vietnam is increased at such a rapid rate, and this increased the rider on the road, and the infrastructure is not yet developed to taking care of all the riders. And we have the increasing number of rural accidents. Many people, young people, such as the high schooler, they are riding mopeds without license. And because of the car booming and the car-based infrastructure, there's less room for motorcyclists. We also face with challenge of people are using mobile phones when driving and riding, even though the drunk driving regulation is implemented, but we still have face some challenges on that. And also the quality of the helmet is still need to control. With all the challenges that we face, we have to create some action for the next decades. The Vietnam government is currently working on the formulation of the new road safety legislation. We propose two roads, the road law to be passed in 2024 and the road traffic order and safety law to be passed in 2024. So before this, we only have one road law, and it's including regulation for infrastructure and the regulation for the people who participate in traffic. However, in 2024, we decided to separate these two laws and to put more enforcement on that. We also issued the Directive 23 by the Vietnamese Communist Party, the Secretary Committee for Traffic Safety, and the Government for Traffic Safety. This showed the commitment of the highest level in Vietnam, and we are taking serious action for traffic safety. We also focus on road safety education and training for young drivers, young riders, and for young students to improve the education materials and teaching approach for students and children and guidelines for teachers. We're teaching them about recognizing the risk and the danger when they are participating on the road. We organize many big events for road safety campaign and automatic testing for drivers, examination. For example, we have the driving test online and the actual driving test in the school. And we also advocate many programs for road safety on national and provincial TVs and radios and newspaper to raise awareness for the population. Lastly, I want to inform the conference about one of the biggest events in 2024 we have right now. On April 14, we will organize a marathon for traffic safety. And this event has been organized for the last 3 years. These are one of the community events that we organize to raise awareness for road safety as well as the health management for the population. Thank you for your kind attention.
Bueno, yo creo que rápidamente voy a hacer un resumen.
I'm going to summarize very briefly this something. We have seen that Vietnam is a mature country in they're well used to having motorbikes, and one of the main points when we talk about the points of success is the support of the government. Penalization for not wearing helmet, for example, the sanction was so strict that it deterred people from not wearing it. So everyone started wearing it. So they were totally strict. There was no consideration for not wearing it. Obviously, that whole society approach, that very strict approach is very important in their success. For a country that has 20–30% more motorbikes than four-wheel vehicles, they're thinking of the infrastructure design because they are the main vehicles, so they have to take it into account because the behaviors are different. Vietnam is one of the examples. We've seen all the different presentations. Colombia, on the other hand, we've seen the challenges it faces. As Colombia hasn't got the same approach, hasn't got the political support or the political will that Vietnam has. So the results are different. The profile of accidents in Vietnam is motorbike against motorbike. In Colombia, motorbikes against cars. So obviously, different type of accidents as well, and all of this has to be taken into account when trying to understand these realities. Spain is, as Pere said, are applying or bringing in new measures, but there is something important to point out. While we are getting our cities ready, because sustainable urban mobility many of the measures we take are risky for motorbikes. So painting, thermoplastic painting, for example, it's a way of making it all more safe and more lasting. But in our reality, it rains a lot, and that makes the motorbikes slip. So all of these things have to be taken into account. We transform our cities. When we're transforming the use of our land, we have to take all of these things into consideration, the communication, training. All of this has to be taken into account. how to obtain a license to drive a motorbike, control, transparent control, rigorous control, permanent control, another key element of success. And something else which is very important, and we could see that during the pandemic. In public health, measures, the use of masks, the washing of the hands, all of that gave control to the pandemic. In this case, it has to be the same. Wearing a helmet, being visible, all of that has to be we have to do social marketing to get people to understand, as they did with the mask. If I didn't put on the mask, I could get the virus. If I don't wear a helmet, I can die if I have an accident. That kind of communication we have to take into account. So thank you to the panelists, Pere and the other two panelists. And that's it. Thank you.